Everyone, if you're here, you love stories that pull you in, keep you guessing, and make you ask one burning question: what happens next? You're in the right place. Tonight's story is one of survival, shadows, and the strength it takes to reclaim your life. So settle in, grab a drink, and let's dive into a journey you won't forget. And if you enjoy stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, make sure you subscribe right now so you never miss the next chapter. Naomi ran through the rain as if the storm itself wanted to swallow her whole. Every breath she drew was jagged, burning her chest like glass shards. Her thin coat clung to her frame, soaked through, offering no protection against the torrents of water slicing down from the sky. The streets were near empty. Shadows stretched long and distorted under the dim orange glow of the few working streetlights. Her hair, heavy with rain, whipped across her face, but she didn't dare stop to push it away. Behind her, though she couldn't hear actual footsteps, she imagined Victor's cruel laughter echoing in every dark corner, every alley, every empty storefront. It was as though the night itself carried his voice. It whispered through the gutters. It rang in her ears. It mocked her. Years of it had trained her body to respond before her mind could, shoulders hunched, heart hammering, stomach twisted into knots. Naomi clutched herself tighter, her arms folded like a fragile shield against the cold. She had nothing with her, no bag, no phone, not even shoes suited for running. Her flat slapped against the pavement, slick soles slipping on rain-slicked asphalt. But still she pushed forward, because stopping was not an option. Running was no longer a choice. It was survival. Her legs, trembling and leaden, threatened to buckle with each step. Her vision blurred as rain mixed with the tears she didn't remember starting. She darted around the corner, nearly colliding with a trash bin, then stumbled again, her breath hitching with a sob she bit back. She couldn't let the sound out, not now. Noise felt dangerous, as though the very night was listening. Then, it happened. Her body struck something solid. A wall, she thought at first, until arms, strong and steady, caught her before she could collapse onto the unforgiving pavement. She froze, shivering violently, staring up into a face blurred by sheets of rain. A tall man, calm despite the storm raging around them. His umbrella, tilted against the wind, shielded both of them from the worst of it. His voice, low and steady, cut through the roar of rainfall. "Are you all right?" Naomi's lips trembled. The question startled her, not because of the words, but because of the tone. Concern. Genuine, gentle concern. She wasn't used to questions like that. The questions she had known were sharp, cutting, laced with venom. What did you do wrong? Why can't you stop crying? Who else would ever want you? Her throat tightened. She wanted to answer, but the words tangled inside her. Her voice broke as she finally managed, I just need to get away." The man, Ethan, nodded slowly, as if he understood more than she said. His eyes held hers not with pity, but with a steady kind of patience. "You shouldn't be out here alone. Come on." His hand extended, not grabbing, not pulling, just waiting. For one fragile moment, Naomi stared at it, her instincts warring with exhaustion. Fear whispered that safety was always an illusion, that every outstretched hand came with a hidden chain. But her body betrayed her mistrust. Her legs shook too violently to keep standing. With a trembling breath, she let herself be guided. He led her toward a sleek black car parked nearby. Its polished surface reflected the city's fractured lights, rain streaking down its windows in silver rivers. Naomi hesitated, her heart clawing at her chest. Getting into a stranger's car felt like stepping from one danger into another. Yet, she was so tired. Her body screamed for warmth, for rest, for anything but this relentless running. She slid into the seat, her hands shaking so hard she could barely pull the seatbelt across her chest. The soft interior smelled faintly of cedarwood and leather, comforting in a way that startled her. For the first time in years, someone offered help without demand. She let out a shuddering breath, and for a fleeting heartbeat, silence wrapped around her like a fragile blanket. But tell me, if you were Naomi right now, would you trust this stranger, or would you still be bracing yourself for the moment the kindness turned to control? Naomi nodded. The words still felt locked inside her chest. She clutched the towel tightly, holding it like armor. The fabric absorbed the rain, but also something else, some of the trembling that had overtaken her. She sank onto the edge of a plush sofa, her body folding inward, trying to make herself small. Ethan moved quietly around the kitchen, the sound of boiling water filling the silence. He didn't hover, didn't press, didn't question. He simply allowed space. That, more than anything, unnerved Naomi. She had grown used to silence being dangerous, the kind of silence that came before yelling, before a slammed fist, before the sting of words meant to cut deeper than any blade. But this silence felt different. It wasn't waiting to explode. It was steady. When he returned, he set a steaming mug on the coffee table in front of her. "Chamomile," he said softly. "It helps with the nerves." Her hands trembled as she reached for it, the rising steam fogging her vision. The warmth seeped through her fingers, grounding her in ways she didn't expect. She whispered, barely audible, "Thank you." Ethan gave a small nod. No questions, no pressure, just a quiet acknowledgement, as if her thanks were a gift and not an obligation. Later, when he showed her the guest room, Naomi hesitated at the doorway. The bed looked too soft, too inviting. The idea of safety seemed too fragile to trust, but exhaustion dragged her down, and she collapsed onto the mattress, clinging to the towel like a lifeline. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks as she curled in on herself. For one night, just one, she allowed herself to believe she might be safe. But was this peace real, or just the calm before a storm that would come crashing down again? Morning brought light through the windows, golden shafts cutting across the hardwood floor. Naomi stirred, her eyes gritty from restless sleep. For a moment she didn't remember where she was. Then memory crashed back. Ethan's steady gaze, the storm, the house that smelled of cedarwood. Her relief was fleeting. The violent pounding on the front door shattered the fragile calm. The sound reverberated through the walls, sharp and merciless. Naomi's blood froze. She knew that voice before the words even registered. "Naomi!" Victor's roar rattled the house. "I know you're in there. Open this door." Her breath came in shallow bursts. She scrambled backward, pressing against the bedroom wall, her body shaking violently. Every muscle screamed at her to hide, to disappear, to make herself invisible. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his expression calm, but his jaw tight. He raised a hand, a silent gesture for her to stay put. Then he moved to the door. Naomi's ears strained, her heart thundering so loudly she thought it might drown out the words. The door creaked open, only a fraction, just enough for Ethan to stand firm. "That's far enough," Ethan's voice came, low and cold. "She doesn't want to see you. Leave." Victor's rage poured through the crack like poison. "She's mine. She has nothing without me." Naomi pressed her trembling hands against her ears, but she couldn't block it out. The words were carved deep into her bones, echoes of every night he'd spat them at her, making her believe them. But then she heard Ethan again, his tone steady, unshaken. "She's not yours. Not anymore." A pause followed. Then Victor's voice, venomous, low. "You think you can keep her from me?" Ethan didn't flinch. "She's free. You don't get to own people." There was a silence heavy enough to crush air itself. Then Victor spat a curse and stormed away, his footsteps retreating into the distance. Naomi sagged against the wall, her body trembling from the inside out. Relief should have come, but dread lingered. She knew Victor, It wasn't over. Ethan closed the door, leaning against it for a moment. His shoulders rose and fell with a heavy breath, but when he turned back, his eyes softened as they met hers. "It's all right," he said gently. "He's gone. For now." Naomi nodded faintly, but her chest still ached, her body still braced for the storm she knew was only beginning. "But what do you think? Was this the end of Victor's pursuit? Or had Ethan and Naomi only just stepped into a battle far more dangerous than either of them imagined?" Days blurred together in quiet rhythms Naomi hadn't known in years. At first, she tiptoed through Ethan's home as if every step might trigger anger. She hesitated before touching anything. A glass in the kitchen, a blanket on the sofa, as though the act of kneading might be punished. But Ethan's house didn't breathe anger. It breathed calm. He moved with deliberate gentleness, never raising his voice, never demanding. If she spilled tea, he only wiped it up and asked if she wanted another cup. If she startled at the creak of the floorboards, he slowed his steps and gave her space. If silence stretched long between them, he didn't try to fill it. He let her set the pace. Naomi often caught herself waiting for the snap, the inevitable eruption, but it never came. Slowly, a fragile trust began to root. One afternoon, she lingered by the window in the living room, her eyes following the droplets that slid lazily down the glass. The storm outside had quieted days ago, but she still felt it inside her. Her reflection in the pane looked older than she remembered, tired, hollow. Ethan came in quietly, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You've been staring out there for a while," he said softly. "What are you seeing?" She hesitated. Words felt dangerous, but she forced them out. "The person I used to be." Ethan set a mug down beside her. "Who was that?" Her voice cracked. "A painter. I loved colors, the way they could make sense of things I couldn't say. But he took that from me." Her throat tightened. "Victor said it was pointless, said no one would ever want what I created."
For a moment, Ethan said nothing. He disappeared down the hall, and Naomi's chest constricted. Had she said too much? But when he returned, he was carrying something, a small box filled with brushes and paints. Her breath caught. "If you painted once," Ethan said gently, placing it on the table, "you can paint again. Not for anyone else, just for you." Naomi's fingers hovered over the brushes, trembling. She hadn't touched one in years. The weight of Victor's mockery pressed against her chest, but something deeper stirred too, a flicker of the girl she used to be. With shaking hands, she lifted a brush and dipped it into paint. Her first strokes were hesitant, clumsy. The canvas seemed to mock her uncertainty, but slowly, colors spread across the surface, bleeding into shapes that whispered of memories she thought she'd buried. She didn't notice Ethan leaning in the doorway until his voice broke the silence. "There you are," he said softly, almost to himself. Naomi's throat tightened. She didn't know what he saw in her, but in that moment, for the first time in years, she saw a glimpse of herself, too. "But let me ask you, if you were Naomi, would you dare trust this fragile rebirth? Or would you fear it was only a dream waiting to be shattered again?" The shadows returned sooner than she expected. It was a quiet evening when she and Ethan walked through the city. Naomi clutched her coat tighter, keeping close to him, her eyes darting at every movement. The city buzzed around them, cars rushing by, neon lights flickering, but Naomi's gaze caught on one figure, leaning casually against a lamppost. Victor. He smirked, his eyes locking onto hers with chilling ease. Then with mocking nonchalance, he raised 2 fingers in a salute before melting back into the crowd. Naomi's stomach twisted violently. She stumbled, clutching Ethan's arm. He steadied her, his eyes scanning the street. "What is it?" Her voice shook. "He was here. I saw him." They searched, but Victor was gone, swallowed by the city's chaos. Yet the ghost of his smirk lingered. That night, when they returned home, Naomi found the note on Ethan's door. "You can't hide. You'll always be mine." Her hands shook as she read it. Every letter seemed carved into her bones. Victor's jaw clenched as he took it from her. "He's escalating," he said, his voice hard. "But you are not alone." Naomi nodded weakly, but the fear dug its claws deep. She had thought she was free, even if just for a moment. Now Victor's shadow loomed over her again. "And tell me, what would you do if the past you escaped from came knocking at your door, smiling, daring you to believe you'd never truly left?" The message grew darker. One morning, they found Ethan's sleek black car vandalized in the driveway. Across the hood, scratched deep into the paint with something sharp, was a single word: "Mine."
Naomi's breath caught. The word might as well have been carved into her skin. She felt her knees weaken, and she grabbed onto Ethan's arm to steady herself. Ethan's face hardened. His usual calm steadiness now carried steel. He wants to scare you. He wants to make you believe he still controls you, but he doesn't. Naomi's chest heaved. But what if he never stops? What if he never lets go? Ethan met her gaze firmly. Then we don't stop either. Naomi wanted to believe him, but fear had a way of whispering louder than hope. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made her jolt awake. She sat by the window, clutching her knees, staring at the streetlight outside, waiting for Victor's silhouette to appear again. And you, if you were in Naomi's shoes, how would you fight back against a ghost that keeps returning? Would you stand your ground, or would you run again into the storm? The night was quiet, almost too quiet. Naomi sat curled up on the couch, her brushes and paints scattered across the coffee table. She had been working on a canvas for hours, broad strokes of color that tried to capture the fragile hope she was learning to feel. The brush slipped from her hand as sleep tugged at her. Her eyelids grew heavy, the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen blending with the distant sound of rain against the windows. She told herself it was safe to rest, just for a moment, just one night where she didn't have to run. But then came the sound. A creak. Subtle. Deliberate. Too heavy to be the house settling. Naomi's eyes snapped open. Her chest tightened as dread pooled in her stomach. Slowly, she sat up, her eyes adjusting to the shadows. The living room, lit only by the faint glow of a street lamp outside, seemed to shift. And then she saw him. Victor. He stood in the doorway, his figure framed by darkness, his eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. His lips twisted into that same cruel smirk that had haunted her dreams. "You're mine," he sneered as he stepped inside. Naomi's body froze. Her hands trembled, her throat closing up. She had spent years training herself to disappear in moments like this. Silence, stillness, compliance. But something inside her stirred this time. Her voice, thin and trembling but present, broke the air. "I'm not yours anymore." Victor's smile vanished, replaced with a dangerous glint of fury. Don't lie to yourself. You'll never be free of me." Before Naomi could react, Ethan burst into the room. His voice thundered, his body moving with protective instinct. "Get away from her." Victor lunged forward, and the clash erupted like a storm contained within four walls. The two men collided violently, furniture toppling, glass shattering as the living room became a battlefield. Naomi pressed back against the couch, heart racing so fast it blurred her vision. The sounds were overwhelming, grunts of exertion, the splinter of wood as a table leg snapped, the crash of a lamp hitting the floor. Ethan wrestled Victor back, his jaw set with rage, but Victor fought like a man possessed. Years of control, years of obsession boiled out of him in every strike. "Naomi!" Ethan shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Run!" Her legs twitched with the old instinct. She had run before. She had spent years running. It was the only survival she knew. But this time, she didn't move. Her gaze fell on the heavy jar filled with brushes on the table. Her hands shook as she grabbed it, her knuckles white. For one heartbeat, fear threatened to paralyze her. Then, something inside her snapped. With a cry that startled even herself, Naomi hurled the jar. It shattered against the wall, glass exploding into sharp fragments. The noise distracted Victor long enough for Ethan to pin him to the floor. Naomi stood frozen, chest heaving, staring at the fragments glinting on the carpet like shards of her old self breaking apart. For years she had been voiceless, powerless. But in that moment, she realized she could act. She could fight. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Pinned under Ethan's weight, Victor thrashed, his voice dripping with venom. "You think this changes anything? You'll always come back to me." Naomi's body trembled, but she stepped forward. Her voice shook, but it carried more force than it ever had before. "You don't own me," she said louder now. "Not anymore." Victor's eyes widened. Not in fear, but in rage. And yet Naomi saw something else in that flash. Power shifting, his grip on her finally cracking. Moments later, sirens' light flooded the windows. Officers stormed in, pulling Victor up in cuffs as he spat curses at both of them. Naomi stood frozen, her knees threatening to give out. Ethan was at her side instantly, steadying her, grounding her. "It's over," he whispered. But was it really? Tears blurred her vision. She didn't know how to believe those words, but part of her desperately wanted to. And what about you? Do you think one night of defiance is enough to break years of fear? Or would you still be haunted, waiting for the shadows to return? That night, sleep came in broken pieces. Naomi dreamed of glass shattering, of Victor's voice clawing through the dark, of running barefoot through endless rain. She jolted awake more than once, gasping, her body drenched in sweat. But each time Ethan was there, quietly sitting nearby, keeping watch. Not hovering, not pushing, just present. His presence was like an anchor, holding her in place when the storm of memory threatened to sweep her away. For the first time, Naomi wondered if she could really rebuild herself. Not just survive, but live. But then another thought clawed at her. Victor had been taken, yes, but what would come next? Would he twist his lies in a courtroom, the way he always twisted the truth? Would the world finally see him for what he was? Or would it once again leave her unheard? And so I'll ask you, do you think Naomi's stand tonight will carry into the days ahead? Or will the system try to silence her all over again? The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood, the kind of place where time itself seemed to move slower. Naomi sat on a long oak bench, her hands clasped tightly together. Her knuckles were pale, her breath shallow, her heart pounding so loudly it felt like everyone in the room must hear it.
She had never been in a courtroom before. To her, justice had always felt like something reserved for other people, people with stronger voices, people who hadn't been broken down and told they didn't matter. Sitting here, with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, she felt the weight of every whisper Victor had ever hissed into her ears. "You'll never be believed. You'll never escape me." Across the aisle, Victor sat with a smirk carved across his lips, his suit crisp, his hair neatly styled. To anyone else, he might have looked like a man of charm, confidence, control. To Naomi, he looked like the same nightmare wrapped in new skin. Ethan sat beside her, his presence steady, his hand a quiet anchor resting on the bench between them. His eyes never wavered from her, silently promising, "I'm here, I'm not letting go." The judge entered, and the room rose. Naomi felt her legs wobble, but forced herself to stand. When everyone sat again, the proceedings began. The lawyer representing Victor stood, his voice smooth as silk, his words practiced and poisoned. "Your Honor, my client wishes to make it clear that these accusations are exaggerated. This is simply a case of misunderstandings blown out of proportion." Victor leaned forward, his expression polished, his tone dripping with confidence as he spoke. "Naomi has always been dramatic, emotional. She likes to imagine things. It's not her fault, really. She's always had a way of twisting the truth." Naomi's chest clenched, her nails digging into her palms. This was the Victor she knew, the manipulator, the deceiver, the man who could take reality and bend it until people questioned their own eyes. He had worn that mask countless times in front of friends, neighbors, strangers, making her look like the unstable one. Her throat tightened as the lawyer gestured toward her. "This is nothing more than bitterness, Your Honor. She left him, and now she's trying to punish him with these stories." Naomi's stomach twisted. Stories. That's what they called it. Her life, her terror, her bruises etched into memory. The judge's gaze shifted to her. "Ms. Naomi, do you wish to respond?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out at first. Her voice was stuck in her chest, her heart hammering so loudly she thought it would drown out every word. She wanted to vanish. She wanted to run. Then she felt it. Ethan's gaze, steady, unwavering. Her voice broke the silence, fragile at first. "They're not stories." The courtroom quieted. Naomi's voice trembled, but she forced herself forward. "He followed me. He left notes. He scratched the word 'mine' into Ethan's car. He broke into the house." Her throat caught. "He's tried to break me for years." Victor's lawyer leaned forward, ready to interject, but the judge held up a hand. "Let her finish." Naomi's chest heaved. Her hands shook as she clutched the edge of the bench. "Every day I lived in fear. Every night, I wondered if I'd wake up to his shadow standing over me. He told me I had nothing without him, and for a long time, I believed him." Her eyes flickered toward Victor, who stared at her with venom barely concealed beneath his mask. Her voice wavered, then grew stronger. "But I deserve to live without fear. I deserve to breathe without his voice in my head. I deserve to be free." The room fell silent, her words hanging in the air heavier than any argument Victor's lawyer could craft. Victor's jaw tightened, his smirk faltering for the first time. Naomi's shoulders shook as she sat back down, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan's hand covered hers instantly, squeezing gently. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The warmth of his touch was enough. The judge leaned forward, eyes heavy with consideration. "The evidence speaks clearly. The testimony aligns. This court grants a restraining order. Mr. Victor is to have no further contact with Ms. Naomi." Relief washed through Naomi's body, though it was tangled with exhaustion. She had been heard. For the first time, her voice had broken through the walls Victor had built around her. "But let me ask you,
Do you think a court order can truly stop someone like Victor? Or will he find new ways to haunt her, to push against the boundaries meant to protect her? Later, outside the courthouse, Naomi stood in the sunlight. The air felt strange, almost unfamiliar. It wasn't freedom yet, not fully, but it was a step. Ethan walked beside her, his hand brushing hers, waiting for permission before taking it. She let him. "You were incredible in there," she said softly.
Naomi shook her head, tears still clinging to her lashes. "I was terrified." He smiled faintly. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing up even when you're shaking. Her chest tightened. She had been shaking the whole time, but she had stood. "And what about you? If you had to face your tormentor in front of strangers, with every word feeling like it could crumble beneath you, would you find your voice, or would fear silence you again?" That night, Naomi sat at her easel again. This time, her strokes weren't shaky. They were bold, filled with reds and yellows that clashed and danced across the canvas. Each stroke was a release, a declaration, a defiance. Ethan watched quietly from the kitchen, letting her create. Her voice had been heard in the courtroom, but now it was speaking again through her art. For the first time, Naomi began to believe in a future that wasn't written by Victor's hand. But tell me, what future do you see for her now? One of true freedom, or a life still shadowed by the echoes of what she escaped? The days that followed the courtroom battle were quieter. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Naomi could walk through a morning without her chest aching from fear that Victor might appear around the corner. The order of protection was more than just a legal document. It was a shield, fragile but real, and for once she allowed herself to believe she had earned it. Her mornings began differently now. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, golden and warm, spilling across the wooden floor. Ethan would stumble into the kitchen, hair a mess, attempting to flip pancakes with little success. The first one always landed burnt, the second too raw. Naomi laughed for the first time in years, really laughed, when one particularly ambitious flip landed the pancake half on the pan, half on the counter. "Don't say it," Ethan muttered, though his lips twitched. Naomi covered her mouth, giggling. "You're hopeless." "Hopelessly persistent. One day, I'll get it right." The sound of laughter in her own throat startled her. For so long, her laughter had been silenced, replaced with whispers of apology or tears hidden in shadows. But now, the sound felt alive, bright, echoing through Ethan's home like a new melody. And let me ask you, do you believe joy can return after so much pain? Or do you think laughter always carries the shadow of what came before? Her art flourished with her healing. Naomi spent long hours at the easel, her brush dancing across canvas. At first, her paintings were dark, stormy skies, shadowed figures, colors that clashed violently. But over time, light began to creep in. Streaks of gold cut through the gray, vibrant reds bloomed like flowers. Faces emerged from the shadows, no longer broken but strong, lifted by color and hope. Ethan never pressured her, never asked what each piece meant. He simply watched with quiet admiration, sometimes sitting with a book nearby, letting the scratch of her brush against canvas fill the silence.
One evening, he walked in holding an envelope. "This came in the mail for you." Naomi frowned, wiping paint from her fingers before opening it. Her eyes widened as she read. A local gallery was inviting her to showcase her work.
Her stomach dropped. "I can't," she whispered, the letter trembling in her hands. "I'm not ready. What if they see weakness? What if they see everything I've tried to hide?" Ethan stepped closer, gently taking her hand. "They won't see weakness, Naomi. They'll see strength. They'll see survival." Naomi's throat tightened. "But what if they don't? Then I'll be right there, seeing it for myself." "And what about you? Would you step into that gallery, risking the world's gaze? Or would you stay hidden, safe in the comfort of your silence?" The gallery glowed with warm light on the night of her showcase. Paintings lined the walls, each a fragment of Naomi's soul laid bare for strangers to see. Her heart pounded as people wandered, pausing before her work, whispering to one another. She stood in the corner at first, clutching a glass of water like a shield. Every smile felt suspicious, every whisper a possible judgment. But then something unexpected happened. A woman approached her, eyes brimming with tears. She stopped in front of one painting, a canvas of shadowed hands reaching toward a crack of light. "Thank you," the woman said softly. "Your painting, it shows what I could never say out loud." Naomi's breath caught. The woman's words sank deep, breaking something open inside her. For years, Victor had silenced her, told her her voice was worthless. But here was someone touched, even healed by her art. When the gallery host invited her to speak, Naomi's legs nearly gave out. She wanted to run, to hide. But then she remembered the courtroom, remembered her voice trembling but rising above Victor's lies. She couldn't let silence win again. She stepped forward, her hands trembling as she faced the crowd. "These paintings," she began, her voice wavering at first, "are pieces of my story. They are fear, but they are also survival. For years, I thought silence was my only option. But every color here is proof that I made it through. And if even one of you sees something that makes you feel less alone, then it was worth it." Applause filled the room. Naomi's chest tightened, but not with fear, but with release. She felt chains fall away. "Tell me, if you were standing there, would you find the courage to share your scars, or would you keep them hidden behind locked doors forever?" Later, when the crowd thinned, Naomi found herself standing by one of her brighter canvases, sunlight pouring over a meadow, strokes bold and confident. Ethan approached quietly, his eyes warm. "You were amazing," he said softly. Naomi turned, tears in her eyes. "I was terrified." He smiled gently, "And yet, you stood. That's what amazes me about you, Naomi, your strength. I saw it from the very first night."
Her chest ached, but not with fear this time, with something softer, deeper. She whispered, her voice breaking, "I love you." Ethan's eyes softened, his hand cupping her cheek. "I love you too." Their kiss was tender, unhurried, filled with promises, not just of safety, but of life, of rebuilding, of a love steady enough to carry them both forward. The mornings after were no longer haunted. Pancakes still burned, laughter still echoed, the sunlight still spilled across the kitchen table. Naomi painted with bold strokes, her brushes no longer trembling in her hands. Her laughter no longer sounded foreign. For the first time in years, Naomi believed she was free. But let me leave you with this. What do you think freedom truly means? Is it the absence of fear, or is it finding the courage to live boldly even while shadows still linger? And that's where Naomi's journey brings us for now. A story of shadows, courage, and the brushstrokes of a new beginning. But tell me, what did you feel while walking through her struggle? Do you believe she's truly free? Or are there still echoes of Victor's shadow waiting to test her strength again?
If you want more stories that keep you holding your breath, wondering what will happen next, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what part of Naomi's journey struck you the most. Because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. And you won't want to miss what's coming next.